For this afternoon and tonight, a significant winter storm, including heavy snow with blowing and drenching.
Hello and welcome to the SnowBrains podcast, where it's my job to interview the most intelligent people in the snow sports industry and pass their fascinating knowledge on to you, our listeners. I'm your host, Miles Clark. I'm a professional free skier, a mountain guide, an Alaska heli ski guide, a UC Berkeley molecular cell biology graduate, the founder and CEO of SnowBrains, and I just completed my 300 project today. I skied 300 days in 1 year to pay tribute to my mom, who passed away from her fourth cancer in January 2023. She was stubborn, and so was this project. The stats on the 300 are kind of fun. 305 ski days in 1 year. Started on December 8th, 2022, and ended on December 7th, 2023. 280,923 vertical feet climbed. 518 miles traveled in the backcountry, 132 powder days, 10 rainy days, 194 ski resort days, 135 backcountry ski days, 15 heli ski days, 53 backflips, 117 360s, 8 D-spin 720s, 72 days in Utah, 71 days in Bariloche, Argentina, 36 days in Lake Tahoe, California, 54 days in Mammoth, California, 22 days in the Eastern Sierra, California, 16 days in Valdez, Alaska, 13 days in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, 7 days in British Columbia, Canada, 6 days in Tierra del Fuego, Argentina, 4 days in Southern Patagonia, and 4 days in Antarctica. I am nothing but grateful to have completed this project. Thank you to everybody, and thank you to everything. My guest today is Steven Nyman. Steven first skied on the World Cup at age 20 and got 15th in slalom in his first ever World Cup race. He's been ski racing on the World Cup since 2002 with 14 World Cup seasons. Steven skied in 3 Winter Olympic Games. He won 3 World Cup downhill races. Steven has been on the World Cup podium 11 times, all in downhill events. He achieved 4 World Cup podiums in the downhill in 2016 alone. Steven was ranked 6th overall in the downhill in 2015 and 2016. Steven has also skied powder with me in Alaska and Utah and is one of the strongest people I've ever met. Hello, Steven. Welcome to the show. Thanks so much for being here. How are you, man?
Fantastic. Waiting for the snow to start flying. It's getting colder.
Not long now, man, because I guess for our listeners, it's what, the very end of September. When did you ski last?
Dude, that's a tough question for somebody who just retired.
Yeah, right?
April, I think. No, maybe May.
Because I bet you normally ski in the summer, right?
It's been funny looking at my teammates. They're going to Zermatt, they're going to Chile, Argentina, and I'm still home, just enjoying summer.
Just chill, man. Well, yeah, you got to get used to your new routine. Well, Steven, I really want to dig into your impressive 20-year ski racing career. We'll jump into some rapid fire stuff before drilling down on some deeper stories. And actually, I got ahead of myself. And even before that, I would love to hear your quick and dirty, like 3-minute life story. So this is something I just started doing with folks, and I think it's an amazing way to connect with people. I do this with all the people I hire at SnowBrains, and I think it's cool. You kind of figure out where people are coming from, where they're headed, where they are right now. So if you don't mind, if you tell us your quick and dirty 3-minute, it could be longer than 3 minutes. Your quick and dirty life story.
Oh, well, all right. I was born in Provo, Utah. At the age of 3 or 4, we moved up to Sundance. My dad ran the ski school at Sundance for 20 years. I have 3 brothers. We all were raised as skiers. My mom taught us how to ski. My dad taught us how to race, is what I like to say. Each of my brothers kind of made their way in skiing in some facet or another. My older brother, he was a ski patroller, ski instructor, Michael. Then there was me. I obviously made it in ski racing. Then Blake, he was probably the best of all of us, and he quit, snowboarded for a few years, and was like, I miss skiing. And then he was the best racer, and then he got back into skiing, ski cross. He almost made the X Games. He was the first alternate. Then he went into the movies and lived kind of the ski bum life for several years and worked it with the movies. He had sponsors like Spider, North Face. He was part of a ski company, Surface, which I see out there. But
those weird bent skis, they used to be popular in Argentina.
Yeah. They are. It's funny. Yeah. They're prevalent in South America.
Yeah.
But they're also around Utah, obviously, quite a bit. And they're still kind of out there, but they had a little push. I think not having those big sponsors kind of limited his rise, but he also wasn't willing to really push it to the limit. He was doing doubles and stuff like that, but then kids were stepping up to triples. And so he was in like Nimbus, Warren Miller, back in the day. He was like in all those little things. So he had some fun, traveled the world. And then my younger brother, he actually currently works at Sundance and is in the restaurant up there.
Oh, wow.
And so for 20 years, we lived on the mountain, and we actually went to a year-round elementary school. We got to pick what blocks of the winter or what blocks we had off. We'd have a 3-week block off. So we always picked February. And as kids, we had that 3-week block off to just ski every day. Wow. And I think the mountain raised us, and it allowed us to excel at the sport. And we really didn't know what was going on at Sundance when it came to racing. There's actually a strong racing history, but when it comes to like navigating that, we didn't know what was going on. And at 16, I decided to commute up to Park City and chase better talent. At the time, there's a World Cup there. And so we had a good surface starting end of November through the entire winter. We trained on a World Cup surface, and I was never that good on soft snow, but I was good on hard snow. And I think it was because of that. And the NORAM Tour tends to not have the greatest conditions. And I did okay on the NORAM Tour, but then when it was icy, I'd do really well. And I kind of chipped my way through the FIS levels, NORAM levels, qualified for World Juniors, ended up winning World Juniors as a discretionary pick from the Park City ski team. I had $10 stretch pants, backward hat on. It was pretty funny. It was like, who is this kid? And made the US ski team, had a rapid rise, won at all levels from NORAMs to Europa Cup to World Cup fairly quick. Made the team in 2002, won my first World Cup in 2006. And then I had some dark years in probably, I'd say, 2008, 9, 10, 11. And then the rise started happening again in 12 till the end of my career. I got back on the horse and did really, really well. So now I have 2 children and my wife, and we're here in Park City. We jump between Park City, Jackson, and I'm excited for this next chapter in life.
Living the dream, man. I'm excited to hear more about it too. I think it's gonna be really exciting for you. Well, sweet, man. Let's rattle through some rapid fire questions, and then I'm excited to learn more about your career. How many days do you ski per season?
Never have counted.
Never counted.
A lot.
I love it. Yeah, because you ski year round. How often do you ski backcountry?
As much as I can. It was when COVID hit, it was kind of fun to just walk out our back door. What's beautiful is both our homes, we can just walk out the door and go ski. And
that's huge.
That's a necessity. I think that's something that we look at is just access to the outdoors in places that we're buying. Another thing in my life story, my wife is Charlotte Moats, who is also a famed skier in her time. And so she was in all the movies, blah, blah, blah.
Posters, everything.
Now she's a businesswoman, but so skiing definitely drives some decisions that we make.
Yeah.
The best way to put it.
Wow, very diplomatic. I agree. I'd have to agree from what I've seen so far. What's your biggest accomplishment in skiing?
It was the 2014 Val Gardena win. I've won in Val Gardena 3 times.
It's crazy.
Which is a famed course in the Dolomites. It's one of the big 5, one of the biggest 5 races on the World Cup Tour. I've won it 3 times. I was the first American to win it and was the only American to win it until my teammate Bryce Bennett won it 2 years ago. Yeah, Bryce. And in 2014, out of the 3 wins, that was my most proud win, because I came in, I knew I was skiing well. Both training runs, I won by over a second. I was really ahead of the whole clan. I was just hitting these lines that nobody was even grasping. It was really, really cool. But then race day came, and I'm like, I can't back down. Like, somebody's got to figure out what I'm doing here. And one guy did.
Oh,
Kjetil Jansrud, and he was 3 or 4 tenths behind me. But then the next guy was like 1.2 behind us. But I just said, no, I'm not backing down. Like, I am laying this down. And it was probably the most perfect run I've ever laid down. There was no snow that year, very thin. A lot of the racing in Europe is on basically cow pastures.
right.
So it was very thin, very icy, just bumpy and rattly the whole way down. So guys were very hesitant. In this course, there's 27, probably I should say 20 to 30 jumps, depending on the year.
Shit.
So there's a lot of blind conviction that occurs. You have to really convince yourself where you're going, what you're doing, and just make it second nature in the back of your head. I was just nailing it. I knew what I needed to do. I could see it. I did it without hesitation. And then come race day, I laid it down, and it was beautiful. It's fantastic.
It's clearly what we call flow state now. What can you describe? What was it like during the run?
At that time, I was just connected with my equipment. I call it a tempo. Those dark years I was talking about earlier, a lot occurred to where the equipment wasn't reacting the way I want it to react, and I was trying to communicate that with my technician and with the engineers at Fisher to design something that would react the way I want it to react. And so finally we came up with this ski and this boot combo, and when I press into it, it has this tempo of how it's going to turn, and that was just ingrained in me, and I knew how it would react, how I needed to move through the turns, and I can just see these points when I'm inspecting. I look at this point and that point and that point, and it's this kind of like flashcard thing in my head that I just drive to that point, and I drive to that point, and I drive to that point, and I'm just throwing all my energy from there to there to there to there to there. I knew how things were going to react, and I just went in with full force.
That's what I find out with a lot of people, that I knew how things were going to react, or I knew, the outcome before it happened. And I feel that too. If I do experience a flow state, it's almost as if I can see a half a second into the future. But, so it's almost like, you're so in the moment, you're almost ahead of the moment. I don't know. That's kind of the way I've described it. And it sounds like you feel something similar.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't want to say I'm ahead of it, but and you predict how things are going to react. But also when they don't react that way, there's no panic. You're just so in balance to where you're like, oh, back at it, go back to where I want to get to.
Yeah.
And you don't panic to get there.
So if you end up in your plan B, you're still charging.
There's a broader mistake range to where if something happens, you're fine. Whereas if things aren't quite reacting right, you have to be just like so precise in this arena, or else things go really wrong quickly.
Absolutely. Especially in your world.
Yeah. Oh, I've had it on the other side of things.
Oh, and we're going to get to that, man, because I think that people can relate to that. I think it's a good part of the human story. What do you think is your biggest accomplishment in life?
Biggest accomplishment in life, I'd say, are my kids right now. Just very fulfilling. It's fun to see them learn and look at something, especially in skiing. Skiing just naturally, I think, raises superhumans. I like to say there's the awareness aspect. There's the balance, the vibrations, the G forces, the ever-changing conditions. And naturally, you start on a flat slope and go steeper, go over different terrain, and you have to find that belief and conviction in yourself. And it's a solo sport. It's not relying on many other factors aside from yourself. Watching them challenge themselves in different arenas and say, "Dad, can I do that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you got this. And they go down, they're like, "Oh, da, da, da." Like, that's so cool to me and super motivating. And yes, there's the days where they're total jello across the snow and you got to pick all the gear up and it's just like, why am I doing this? But there's those days that just make up for it when they push their limits and gain confidence in themselves.
Sort of an allegory for life in a way, right? Where's your favorite place to ski?
Favorite place to ski is Chamonix when there's snow.
Oh,
Chamonix is incredible. Just the adventure aspect that is there. Just that valley is so incredible and motivating. I also love St. Anton. I love the broadness that Europe provides, like how you can travel through the mountains. That's so fun.
What would you do if you couldn't ski? You're still able-bodied, but for some reason you can't ski.
Surf.
Yeah.
I love surfing. The ocean's attractive to me. We always go there once or twice a year just to de-weight, connect with the water. I got pretty good a few years ago, but
nice.
I totally destroyed my knee in 2016 and just haven't surfed that much since. But I've been dinging around on a longboard with my daughter on the nose.
Nice.
We have actually had a couple little surf competitions in Maui, and she'll just hang on the front with her goggles, and it's like, this is awesome. That's a ton of fun. But I'd like to get back into some good waves and challenge myself again.
What scares you the most in the mountains?
How small you are. And I really realized this in Chamonix. And like in Jackson, when you're under just like you're in the Hobacks under just these cliff bands, and you're like, "Whoa, I'm nothing." Yeah. Something can shift here, and I'm nothing. And it's just really being aware of your surroundings, what's going on, what has happened, like jumping around here and there to different places, and not being aware of what has occurred over time. Yeah, you can look it up. I need to get better at that. When I'm in one place for a long time, I have a better understanding of what snow conditions are like, but it's more just, it's hard to predict, and you need to really be aware. And being with people that are loose cannons really freaks me out, I guess.
Oh, me too.
Like going on adventures and being with people that are just like, yeah, we got this, that are highly capable, but just don't understand what the mountains can do to you.
Yeah, the risk reward, it's always got to be taken in mind. And on that note, what do you love most in the mountains?
The tranquility, the peace. Like when I'm just out there skinning, touring up something, and you just stop and there's nothing going on. It's just quiet. I like to jet ahead of everybody and then just kind of like sit there for a while. And
I like that.
Take it in solo is very energizing to me.
I agree. I love that. What might be the funniest accident you've had in the mountains, or just a funny story you've had in the mountains? I actually just read a little bit about how you crashed and shit yourself, but I don't know if that's funny.
That's what I was thinking. And I was like, I think it's happened twice.
Oh, wow. All right. I'm going to hear
But
this.
it wasn't the one time was like a very compressive turn.
Oh.
And it was just a little bit, but the big one was it wasn't funny because it was basically the end of my the peak of my career. In 2017 I crashed in Garmisch, blew my ACL, MCL, PCL, lateral compartment.
What?
Just totally destroyed my left knee. We had one training run. I did well in that training run, but there's this jump near the end that had this like lip to it, and there's no reason to have a lip to it. Like we're coming in there at 60 miles an hour. Any downhill jump should have a downward trajectory takeoff. And I told them, like, we all backed down because it had this little lip to it, and we said, race day is tomorrow, you got to cut this down. Like, we were soaring today. Got there in inspection, looked at it, and they said, I said, you didn't cut this down. He's like, oh, we did, but we will cut it down some more. And I'm like, all right. And I just trusted him and went full gas into there. I was leading the race by 3/4 of a second. And I'd been on 5 of the last 6 or 7 podiums. And I sent it off the jump full gas and basically fell 3 stories.
Ooh.
And then hit a wall going about 60 and pop. But I crashed, smashed into this wall. It was an A net, so it wasn't a wall. It was a big net, but they have a B net before it, which is a fence, which I was in a good position to hit the wall, but the net grabbed my foot and pulled it up. So when it was up higher, I hit the wall and the knee just went. I felt it, but I'd never done anything to my knees ever. I was just sitting there. I was like, whoa, that was intense. And the guy's like, we will get the helicopter. He's running down there. And I'm like, I'm okay. And he's like, really? I'm like, yeah, it's fine. And I stood up and my knee just buckled. And I was like, no, get the heli. So, but because I was sitting in the snow for so long, my ass was just frozen. And I didn't know what was really going on. And they got the heli. They flew me to the hospital. Beautiful view of the Zugspitze as I was in the bed there on a cable underneath the heli. Landed. I'm sitting there. The nurses going through stuff. They were going through everything, looking at my body. Cut my suit off. Cut my long johns off. And the nurse was like, Scheiße in the Hosen. I'm like, what?
Scheiße.
I kind of like wiggled my butt around. I was like, oh man, I shit my pants. I didn't like really like it was finally thawing out, and I was like, wow, there's a lot in there.
Oh my God.
And so I had to have her wipe me. And then because I did that, because it was such a hard compressive hit, they kind of panicked and we did like full body MRIs, checked out all my internal organs, had to go through everything. But that day, it was a shame because another kid basically ended his career. And he came back and raced a couple races just to prove he could race again, but he never was at that level. He was on a podium a couple races earlier. Valentin Gerard Monet, very good racer. Eric Gay crashed very hard. There was like 3-4 crashes in that section that were just season enders, and it was not good. And so, yes, funny, but not that funny.
Some yin and yang in that story. Because the next question is what's the scariest accident you've had? Hell, it might be the same, but I'm curious to hear what if you got anything else.
Actually, the thing that I came back from that, and 2018, I had been on the podium in the Korean Olympics. I was on the podium there. I was on the podium in St. Moritz for the World Championships, which I missed because of that big knee injury. But the next year was the Olympics. And so I was like, I got to get back. I know this course. I was just at one with the place and fought my way back. I had 2 races to qualify, Wengen and Kitzbühel, which are very daunting hills. And I came in and ended up qualifying.
Wow.
Was top 15 in Kitzbühel, qualified for the games. Next race, Garmisch, 1 day, 364 days later, blew my other knee.
Same place.
3 turns further down on the course.
And that's Germany, right? Garmisch?
Yeah. Whoa. But I think that crash was so big the year prior. I think the other knee was just holding on by a thread. Because if you watch the crash, it looked like it was my right knee that should have blown. So I missed the Olympics, even though I qualified for it. That was a bummer.
Yeah, that's painful.
Then I had another comeback. Came back the next year. We had World Championships in Sweden, and right before Sweden, a few weeks before in Wengen, I caught an edge. My ski had burned, which is where the edge between the edge and the PTEX base, the plastic base. If you slide your ski or if it's really icy, the friction basically burns it and creates a railed edge, which makes it hard to turn.
I've never heard of that.
I went over this all you do is ski on soft snow. So
Yeah,
you don't understand these things.
I'm soft.
So went over this kind of like little drop. And when I went over the drop, my ski kind of shifted out and it was stuck and it railed out. And I
Ooh.
thought I was going to knock my knees in and blow my knees, but my ski hooked up and then I kneed myself in the face.
Ooh.
And I never got knocked out, but it was such a hard hit and nothing happened to my knees, luckily. And I got up and it's like, all right, that was intense. But then I was just like out of it. I'd never had a concussion before.
Ooh.
And got to Kitzbühel. We were in this hotel that was just like purple and neon green and all these colors and
Gross.
music constantly playing. And I was just like, I hate everything right now. Like everything is annoying. I cannot focus. Kitzbühel is way too much for me right now. So I pulled the plug on that and I just said, I have a concussion. I need to figure this out.
Right.
And I just went into this kind of recovery protocol, very silent, very dark kind of recovery phase. And then I went up to Sweden and actually had the best Super G race of my career. But
weird.
Yeah, that I'd say to me, after that, I was pretty cautious.
It changed you.
After destroying my knees, I've broken both legs, I've blown both Achilles. Like those didn't really make me question much. It was when I kneed myself in the face. I was just like, this is a lot, man. I don't know if it just slowed things down or what, but that was, I think, the scariest. Maybe knock some sense into me.
Well, the brain, right? Yeah. Anytime your brain is affected, that is terrifying, right? So yeah, no, I can see how that would be the case. How many friends have you lost in the mountains?
I mean, there's a lot of people that I know, a lot of people that were heroes to me.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest ones were these two kids, Bryce Assel and Ronnie Burlack. They were young development team kids on the US ski team.
Mm-hmm.
And we were in Europe, got a call that those two died in Solden, just skiing as a powder day. They were out skiing, jumped off piste, and the thing ripped. And the two were buried, and they couldn't get them out in time. And I think that really affected that generation of skiers. A lot of kids moved on, went to college. I think there's kind of a gap in this men's development during those years because that was tough.
That's really interesting.
But some of those kids have come back, and Eric Ardvidson, for one, he's on the team and he's skiing really well now. But he was there, and it was really hard on them to be digging their friends out, hoping to save their lives. But Bryce was a kid that I knew of and was on my radar for a long time because he's a Utah boy. I sent him gear, suits, helped him out however I could, and he had a high potential. And then Ronnie was always funny, always joking around on the team, and just a bright personality that motivated everybody around him. So that really kind of hit hard. And to me, growing up at Sundance, you're under the mountains. It's big. Like it's a small resort and it's relatively safe. We've had some deaths in the past, but it's the peaks above Mount Timpanogos that has
huge,
some big
huge
mountains that are powerful and that can rip out. And so I've seen it, and I've known the power of the mountains. And in the US, everything's so controlled and everybody thinks they can go anywhere. But when you get to Europe, there's on piste, off piste, you're at your own risk, and that's not controlled. And people just don't understand that. I should say Americans don't understand that. But when you're in Europe and you're reading the newspapers every day, it's like, two more people died. Oh, people died over here. It's normal. It's a common occurrence. So having that understanding and that respect for the mountains is key.
Well, thanks for sharing that about Bryce and Ronnie, and so sorry that happened. And have you been in any avalanches?
Nothing all too big. In Alaska, I've had one that everything kind of started sliding, but I got out of it easily. It was fine, and it was relatively safe. And then at Sundance, I was climbing side country in the spring, and the whole mountain just started moving.
Whoa.
I was trying to ski this ravine that leads into this run called Hills Head Wall. So you're accessing down this ridge, and as I kind of got off the ridge, the whole mountain just started rolling. I was like, all right, we're not going there.
Yuck. Yeah.
I let it all roll down through the gut, but I just stayed on the ridge and got out of there.
My next question is going to make you giggle. Have you ever been hurt while skiing? I mean, you already mentioned it. I guess more now is more like, can you give us a list?
I think I'm quite balanced and hopefully done with everything, but broke this hand. I'm actually going to get this is kind of what ended my career.
Oh, you broke your hand this year, huh?
Is December. I have a plate here, 9 screws. I had
your hand looks weird
all the way across the hand. I couldn't this was like all the range I had when the pins were in there, but now I can move it and do everything.
Whoa.
Luckily, there was a ton of powder last year, so didn't have to move my wrist. I could just have big pole plants.
There you go.
Countless ribs. I broke my left leg. What was that one? That was the first one, right when I was named to the ski team, 2002.
Oh.
I went to Venice, was skateboarding, snapped my fibula in a bowl.
Oh, your coach was so happy with you.
I was like, just broke my leg. Literally, it was like 2 days after I was named to the US ski team.
Oh my God.
Broke my right leg. Altenmark, 2004, Europe Cup downhill, won the downhill the day prior. I was like the first American to win a Europe Cup downhill since Bill Johnson in the 80s.
Damn.
So it was like really exciting. And then I went to back it up and snap my leg.
Damn.
Had a rod put in, taken out there. Tore my left Achilles, Copper Mountain 2011.
Oof.
That was early morning. It was -30.
Yuck.
Hit this turn in there. We were skiing with the girls, and there's like opposing ruts, different lines. And when I landed, one foot went out in the other rut and one went in the other rut. And so it was very flat. And I was stuck with my legs really wide, legs straight, and like bent forward. And I couldn't get out of that position. I thought my knees were going to buckle backwards. And finally an edge caught, and I slid, and I stood up, and I was like, man, my foot feels like it's straight up and down in my boot. But I thought it was just because it was numb and freezing cold out. So I started skiing, and I took a left-footed turn. I was like, oh, that really hurts. And I was like, I think I tore my Achilles.
Oh.
And so, yes, I did. Won a race the next year, 2012. That was pretty cool.
That's huge.
Then tore my right Achilles, 2020, Mount Hood, COVID, couldn't go train on anything good. So we were in Mount Hood. It was really warm. We saw the snow there, and where I was aiming for ice, and I thought it was icing. I had a lot of pressure on this turn, and it went from ice to soft, and it just gave out. And so I slid, and as I was sliding, my tip hit a gate and just ripped my other Achilles. And I knew it right then.
Ew.
And my teammate was like, I was like, hey man, I just tore my Achilles. And he's like, no, you didn't. No chance. I'm like, no, it's like, it's torn. And so I said, can you get my backpack when you're done? I'm just going to kind of pick my way down the mountain. And I did, and got down and flew home.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Brutal.
And then I did my left knee ACL, MCL, PCL, lateral compartment, and my right knee ACL. But no meniscus, no cartilage. Everything's been relatively healthy inside there. I think that allowed for great recoveries. But I also attribute that to a lot of the health gurus and techniques that I've used over the years.
And I'm going to ask you about that later too, because I forget what it's even called, but I love that you do that stuff. Well, I was counting on my fingers, and I got up to 8. So yeah, you've been hurt before, and recovered from all of them. It's insane, man. So well done. It's a lot of work. You've been on ski trips all over the world. What was your favorite ski trip?
I've never really experienced Alaska until recently. And the past 3-4 years, I've gone up there a few times, and every time has been incredibly special. It's just wild up there. So massive, so endless. Like the options are endless, and I could pick around there forever. A place I'd really like to go again is Sochi, Russia,
Oh,
because
wow.
it was always the Olympics and task at
Mhm.
hand, the race,
Mm-hmm.
but the mountains there were massive and lift access, Alaska style
Mm-hmm.
skiing with lift access, and then you can be at the ocean in 45 minutes.
That's
And
crazy.
or not the ocean, but the Black Sea. That place is incredible. I'd love to pluck around there a lot more.
That's
And
high on my
and
list.
on the way home, we had a stopover in Istanbul, and I was like, I don't want to go to Austria. Like I spent plenty of time there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna stay here. And I just hopped out by myself and stayed in Istanbul for like 3-4 days. And that was really, really cool to just walk around solo. Didn't know a thing. It was the cross section of the world. Like so
Mm-hmm.
many cultures have taken over that area throughout history, and just to see everything that's existed there was eye opening. And I had no previous knowledge, like true knowledge there. So that was a ton of fun to just go explore. And that's what I say. Like when you're skiing's amazing, whatnot, but I love just experiencing the area, the culture, the people. Typically in the summer, we go to Chile, and we'll go in August and we'll go near the end of September. The one year that sticks in my mind is I stayed there
Mm,
for between both camps and just roamed Chile. And
nice.
I actually had a ski technician. Her name's Pamela Warman, and she was the only ski technician that was female on the men's tour for sure.
Uh-huh.
But she's from Chile, and she
Oh,
kind of has this wild story and was disowned by her family. She basically ran away
oh.
because she was married very, very young, and hated it, didn't like her life. She had children and ended up just saying, I got to get out of here, and ran away to America and created her life there, and was reuniting with her family. And basically all her boys that she tuned for were like her boys. And she
Uh-huh.
was like, Steven, I want you to be with me to show my family like I have created a life that's successful, and I'm not just coming back begging. I'm just showing them like, hey, like this is who I am, this is what I do. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
she ended up reuniting with her kids and has a great relationship with them as well. And I got to be there when she reunited with her brother and her father and all
Wow.
that stuff. And
Very cool.
um, very, very cool. But I don't know how you do it, because that amount of time without color, like I was in just brown and white for like
A
2 months. I
long time.
was like, all right, I need some spring, I need some color here. So I actually hitchhiked from Portillo. I hitchhiked down. I was with my coach. I was like, man, I gotta leave. Just give me a few days. And I hitchhiked
Mm-hmm.
down to Los Andes, and it was spring and stuff was growing. And I just like
Oh, that's
laid on park
nice.
benches and read books and just ate food and kind of recharged in the sun, and then went back up for the last few days of camp.
Nice.
But yeah, it was
You guys
fun.
have to come down and visit me in Bariloche because it's green and full of trees and huge lakes here. It's not like the Chilean Andes where it's just rocks and dirt.
And
It's
so high. Yeah.
full of
Yeah.
animals, birds everywhere. It's cool. Yeah, and there's no snow in town, so you don't have to
Yeah.
shovel ever. It's really nice. You
That's
dig it.
nice.
Is
Easy
there?
life.
Yeah, it is easy here, at least compared to the winter we had on the north. Is there anywhere you'd not go back to?
There's a lot of like poor situations that we were put into, but that was more like Fiss's fault of we're all stuck in this hotel, and they negotiate X rate with the hotel. So the hotel's not actually like putting forth the best effort to feed us and whatnot. So like the food was pretty bad, but to me, all the mountains are quite incredible. It's a ton of fun.
Mhm.
Bansko, Bulgaria, the skiing's amazing, massive, so cool. But
Bulgaria. Wow.
the hotel and the food were just horrendous. But when we left and we'd just go to restaurants because we were just like, we can't eat this food anymore. The restaurants were incredible, and the people are incredible, just opening their door to us and haggling and trying to get us to buy their stuff and experience
Fun.
their meat and whatever. It was a ton of fun.
Is there anywhere you haven't gone skiing yet and you really want to go there?
Japan. Never been to Japan.
Oh, really? Oh man, you're gonna have a
Yep.
good time.
I'd love to be down where you are, Patagonia, Argentina, southern tip down there would be quite incredible. I'd love to do some boat access stuff, like in Norway, ski down to the ocean, ski
Yes.
to a boat. That would be super
Yes.
fun.
Norway, Svalbard. Yeah, you gotta do those trips. What's your favorite ski movie of all time?
Ski movie? Sixth Sense, baby.
Oh yeah, nice. I forget who made that one.
Matchstick.
That is a
That was like
matchstick.
that was transformative. That was something that just opened the eyes of a lot of people.
What hit you from that movie?
It was the tricks, it was the twin tips, the Solomon 1080 kind of just changed the paradigm, broadened perspective. People were like, wait, backwards, landing backwards, skiing backwards? That's amazing. But it's so funny to look at it now. You're like, wow, this is so basic.
Yeah. But 540s were a big deal.
I don't know how it took that long to be exposed. I mean, it kind of was there in the 70s, but yeah, we were pretty rudimentary. I think I'd say Sixth Sense was eye-opening to me, and the Canadian Air Force were so cool. I think, was it Three Phils? Were they in that? I don't know.
Three Phils, Mike Douglas.
Just cool to watch. I watched that countless times, and it'd be fun to pull it up and toss it on again.
Absolutely. What challenges you the most intellectually on a daily basis?
Right now, number one, patience with my children. Really knowing that they're learning how to navigate this world, and so I need to really slow down, because I'm like, boom, 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 let's go, let's stop wasting time, like, come on, let's go. But they just want to express themselves, or they've had experiences that they need to let out, and I need to stop and listen and put myself at their level. And in turn, when I do that, everything's going to go faster. So
yeah,
just really like slowing down, but currently really expanding into the business world. And I think it's a lot of fun. I went to this Tuck Next Step program this spring that was a crash course in everything business, and trying to grasp anything from supply chain to accounting to management to whatever it is. It was a lot of information. And then I'm currently in this program at Harvard that's the business of sport, and
congrats, man, that's so cool.
Yeah, that's a ton of fun. And we're just studying a bunch of sport cases and discussing them, and what would you do. I don't know if I'll get into the business of sport, but it's just fun to stretch my brain in that way and learn the language of business as well. So I'm excited for what's next. I have some ideas and can't really expose them right now.
Well, I can't wait to hear what they are when they are exposable. What might be your favorite book or your favorite books?
I feel like The Fountainhead changed my perspective on life back in the day.
Ayn Rand.
Ayn Rand, yeah. And right now I'm in Rick Rubin's book. It basically was written to promote creativity and generate ideas within people, and that's been something that's kind of lit a fire under me.
That's huge, and that's the whole idea of books for me, is that inspiration and directionality. And just quick note, Fountainhead changed my life. I read that when my first guiding job in Alaska, in like September, nobody comes anymore, and I just was in this little cabin at the end of the road greeting people, and nobody was coming. To be in the middle of nowhere in Alaska and reading about downtown Manhattan every day, it was one of the most immersive experiences I've had from a book. And it definitely changed my and some of those skews, the value of selfishness and all that I had already, but so it was very validating also. But that's cool to hear that connect with you on that, because that book changed my life. And then I'm also curious, who has inspired you the most in your life?
I'd say there's a few people. My father is like the most patient, giving person that I've known. He sacrificed so much when we were younger. We didn't grow up with much. My brother was was doing his taxes when he was a ski bum, when he was in the movies. My dad ran ski school for 20 years. My brother was doing his taxes, and he's like, "You made $55,000 last year?" And he's like, "Yeah." And my dad's like, "I raised you boys on $35,000 a year."
Oh, whoa.
We're like, "What?"
And there's 4 of you, right?
There's 4 of us. Yeah.
Oh my God.
I did not know, but they mortgaged the house a few times to help pay for my ski racing, which I'm glad they never told me, because that would have put a lot of pressure on me. My older brother, he quit ski racing, and I think he understood that. I think I was just so focused on like Olympics, baby.
Yeah.
To raise a family on that amount of money, it's just that was mind-blowing to me.
Crazy.
And we had gardens, and we caretook homes up at Sundance, so we didn't, these people that had their second homes, they just let us live there, and we'd hop from home to home to home every year or so, and they saved their money over time and ended up buying a lot and building their house up there.
Well done.
And doing a lot of stuff on his own or with his friends. So it was a very cool life, and I never felt like we were strapped. We were always given all the opportunity in the world. We had a lot of friends that had a lot of things that would invite us places. It was a really special upbringing, not being affluent, but not feeling like we didn't have anything.
Well, say more. I think maybe start with just describe Sundance for us. I think a lot of people don't know what it is, where it is. And like, what was it? I would love to hear about the A-list celebrities. Robert Redford owned it. But yeah, just start from that. What the hell is Sundance?
So in 1969, Redford bought it. It previously was called Temp Haven. And Temp Haven, you're underneath Mount Timpanogos, which is this massive, massive, long mountain. You've obviously skied, what's it called there? The big, there's one of the famous couloirs there.
I did Cold Fusion and Grunge.
Yeah, Grunge couloir.
That thing is scary.
So this is a high alpine, big exposed mountain that has a lot of power behind it. But on the southeast tail of the mountain, Sundance sits, and it's small. It had 3 lifts back in the day, 2 fixed doubles and a fixed triple on the back. No, sorry, I had 4 lifts, 2 triples on the back mountain. So there's the front mountain, then they'll go down, and then there's the back mountain. The back mountain has the bigger, gnarlier terrain. And there's Flathead, Arrowhead, and then Navajo and Mandan were the doubles on the front. When I was young, they took the doubles out, made 1 quad, fixed quad, then went up and over to the back mountain. Anyway, over time, when Redford bought this, he was at the height of his career. All kinds of people come up there. The stories of like the Bee Gees, like it was wild. Apparently, that they just come up there and party and ski. And Willie Nelson came up there a bunch. He had a couple concerts. The photos from these concerts, just tens of thousands of people just strewn across the slopes. And anyway, he came back. I worked at they have an outdoor theater there that is just beautiful. You're staring at the mountain behind this theater. You're sitting outside on the grass and listening to this music or watching plays and stuff. But that's where Willie Nelson performed. And I worked there as the staff, from concessions to whatever. I drove the tractor that hauled people up the mountain to the place.
Nice.
During that time, Willie Nelson came back. I think it was like 30 years later and performed again. And it was total chaos. People just sneaking in through the woods to
I'm sure.
watch the show. Anyway, Redford owned it until 2 years ago. It was acquired by this boutique hotel company in San Francisco. And now they're putting a bunch of capital trying to really maximize it. I think it's incredible because it's outside of Utah Valley, which is Provo, Orem, Spanish Fork, Lehigh, American Fork. Anyway, there's 1 million people in that valley. And this is the only ski area 15 minutes away. And
so close.
You can drive an hour to Park City or Snowbird or whatever, but this is just right there, super easy. When the storms are a southern flow, it nails there. Like we get more than Snowbird or the Cottonwood Canyons, but if it's northern flow, the mountain blocks it. We don't get that much, and the Cottonwoods get a lot more. this past winter was so cool because there's so much snow. It just kept piling up and they have nowhere to put it. And they just kept like trying to push it off to the sides, and the parking lot kept shrinking and shrinking. And it was just like your own private little ski area. If you got there on time, you had your parking spot and you were the only people there. It was amazing.
I still haven't skied there. I got to go, man.
Yeah. This winter, I'll take it.
Let's do it.
So anyway, Redford owned it. It has this Americana vibe, a very good feel, very classy. Doesn't have this resort cookie cutter base areas. It's just nice restaurants, little general store, and it's about the outdoors and skiing. And Redford wanted it as his haven, a place to get away, a place to inspire himself. And a way our family made more money was we did landscaping in the summer, but it wasn't really much landscaping. It was all maintenance of the homes up there. And so it was mowing lawns, weeding gardens. Sometimes we'd plant flowers. Sometimes we'd have to get shovels and move rocks and big stuff, but it was always by hand. My dad never like rented big machinery to like do any of this stuff. So
nice.
It was tough work, and it's obviously in the mountains. There's a lot of hills, a lot of pushing the mowers. I used it as training. I'd sprint up the mountain, pushing these mowers, and walk back down and sprint back up, just in mind.
Beast.
This will work out in the winter type thing.
That's smart.
And one of the yards we maintained was Redford's.
Oh,
and so it was really cool. But it took a day and a half. All we did was mow around every tree, 2 lawnmower widths wide, and then somebody else had a sit mower to mow the big lawns. But he grew alfalfa for his horses. He had horse stables. He had a tennis court, pool, baseball field. Like when he had the movie The Natural, he actually built a baseball field up there that was really cool. Yeah.
Wow.
And then there's this garden when you entered. His house was below, but above there's this play zone with the tennis courts and the baseball field and stuff. And we'd always have to trim every week in the flowers that said Bob Land. So that was a memory I had.
How fun, man.
Anyway, very nice guy and good people. My mom taught Denzel Washington how to ski.
No way.
I remember going into the bathroom and John Cusack was changing. I think he was just leaving to go to the airport or something. He was like stripping down in his boxers and putting his clothes on. I'm like, what? That's John Cusack. Like, I want my $2.
Yeah, I should have said that.
So, the people you'd run into there, they want to just get away and not be recognized and not be in the hustle that is Park City. But the Sundance Film Festival started there. They still have screenings there, but everything's mostly in Park City, obviously, because it can take that. But in the summer, there's the Sundance Institute, there's the Screenwriters Edition. It's a very art-based community. A lot of people go there to learn about film production, to learn about art, to be inspired to produce art. As a kid, we obviously couldn't afford academy life to pursue my ski racing career. So I worked with the local public school system and proposed my own curriculums. I'm like, I don't need to go to PE. Like, this is what I'm doing. I'm pursuing an Olympic skiing career. I train hard enough, blah, 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 blah. So I didn't have to go to PE in high school. So that got me out of high school early. And I said, all right, I don't need to go to art class. I'm going to learn from these like professional artists at Sundance.
Wow.
During the summer. And here's what I'm going to do is like jewelry making, pottery, ceramics, oil canvas painting, whatever it is, glass blowing. I got to learn there under the tutelage of these professional artists.
Wow.
And that got me out of school as well. So basically I worked it to where I could leave school in Orem at noon and drive to Park City and train in the afternoon. And that all worked out.
What a just insanely fantastical way to grow up, man. And to be living on that mountain. I personally think it's the most beautiful place in the Rocky Mountains. Mount Timpanogos with the snow and the striations and then all the aspen trees fluttering. It's stunning there. And then I would just say for our listeners, Robert Redford, just in case they didn't know for some reason, is a very famous actor. And his most famous movie might be Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. And so my guess is that's where the
Filmed
name
up
came
there.
from.
Some of it filmed up there.
Some of it filmed up there.
I think that's how he discovered it. They filmed part of it up there. And then, no, it's Jeremiah Johnson. Sorry, Jeremiah Johnson.
Oh, I love that movie too.
Yeah. And that's where he saw it. And he was like, I want this place. And it's wild what he bought it for. I forgot the number, but it bought it for like $57,000.
No
like
shit.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's nuts, man. Yeah, well, that's cool. I love that backstory too. Well, thank you for sharing all that. I think Sundance is obviously such a special place. During that time was even more special potentially. And getting to grow up there in that way is, obviously completely formed who you are. Well, let's jump into more ski racing questions. I'm just going to rattle off some stats here to start. So, and if I'm wrong on any of these, correct me, but this is what I looked up. So you skied in the World Cup at age 20, and you got 15th in the slalom in your very first ever World Cup race, which must have been awesome. You've been ski racing on the World Cup since 2002, I think 14 full World Cup seasons. You've skied in 3 Winter Olympics. You have won 3 World Cup downhill races. You've been on the World Cup podium 11 times, all in the downhill events, which are both gnarly and badass. You have achieved 4 World Cup podiums in the downhill in 2016 alone. So I want to hear more about that moving forward. You were ranked 6th overall in the downhill in 2015 and 2016. And my first question on this is deeply personal. And I feel like I know you a little bit, so I'm gonna go deep here. But are you satisfied? Are you satisfied with your career and where you ended up?
No.
Short answer.
I accomplished all my dreams. Obviously, it was like I've done some incredible things, but I think the hard part right now is I have such a belief and good knowledge of what I need to do. I think my body just couldn't keep up anymore. It's so taxing on your body downhill.
Insane, man.
And so I was like, I have it. I have this vision in my head. I know what I need to do. I feel like things were lining up and pieces were in place, but it just, my body couldn't keep up with it. And I feel like stuff kind of got taken away with that big knee injury. The 4 podiums in 2016, you said?
Yeah.
Those were actually 4 in a row.
No, okay, I missed that.
Something clicked. No American male has ever had 4 downhill podiums in a row.
Wow.
And I was firing on all cylinders. It was very cool.
You were ready.
First one was in Korea. Next one was in Chamonix. Next one was in Kvitfjell. Next one was in St. Moritz. St. Moritz World Champs were the next year. And then Korea was the Olympics 2 years after that. So things were like lining up. I was in my prime, like.
And you were 34, is that right?
Yeah, I was 34.
Sorry, continue.
Yeah, something in there. Just healthy as an ox. We had great coaches, great trainers, just felt on top of the world. It was very, very cool. Very special place to be. And then, then the knee happened.
That same season? Or was it like the
the season ended at St. Moritz. The first race that year, Val d'Isère, I think I was 10th. I had some boot issues. I got these new boots that I was all fired up on, but then I realized that even though it was so dumb because I just had 4 podiums in a row, but I was like, these are so
let's
good.
Change.
Yeah. And then got to the first race, realized they didn't work on the World Cup, shifted back to the old boot, and the tempo was off. So I kind of had a few mistakes. Then the next race, Gardena, I ended up being 2nd or 3rd.
Wow.
And then Garmisch, I destroyed my knee.
Freaking
was
Garmisch.
In the lead at that time. Garmisch, man.
Yeah.
But I have been 4th at Garmisch before. So
wow.
It's given me the good and the bad.
Oh. What was happening in that season that made you perform at that higher level?
In Yongpyong, Korea, I had trouble in the beginning of that season. Stuff wasn't totally dialed. And it was basically the canting, the alignment of my boots. And once I figured that out, it was on again. But I basically laid to myself this. I said, okay, we're wiping the slate clean. I feel great. Things are good. Whatever happened earlier in the season is gone. Like, let's maximize the rest of the season. Korea is perfect because nobody's ever raced there. We're all starting on this even playing field, and I'm going to go in here with a beginner's mind. And I just like brainwashed myself there. I got my phone out, and I don't know if people do this, or I've never seen anybody do it, but I just took pictures of every turn and those trigger points, those initiation points of every single turn. I'd take a picture on my phone, so I had it, and that gave me an advantage to where I could just inspect again and again and again. I know everybody only had that one opportunity, and then they got to race down the course, and then they got to inspect it again. Like, I was like, no, if I take pictures, then I can flip through the phone and really just like convince myself of this. And I did that, and skied very well. I messed up the second to last turn. I should have won that race, but
Oof.
whatever. Anyway, that kind of like set the ball rolling. And Chamonix, there was a place I had raced there. They usually only race there every 4 years. And I raced there, saw what I needed to do, but just had these issues. And we hadn't been back there in a long time. I think the first year I raced there was like the beginning of my career. Then 4 years later, we raced there. Marco Sullivan won, but I had back issues, and I wasn't in the right place, but I knew what I needed to do there. And finally, like, body was good, equipment was good, everything was dialed. And I was like, all right, time to execute. And I loved how I skied there. And then Kvitville always made sense to me, but I never, same thing, had been like really in top form. And then St. Moritz was the same thing, this brand new course to me that I had to just kind of tear apart and really convince myself of what was possible. And I loved the creativity that I brought to that hill, how I was like placing my turns in certain sections. And I do this like weird thing where there's holes, I can like bring my feet together and get apart. Like, some people will charge through the holes, and I just like kind of dance around on my skis when they're very reactive, and I know how they're going to perform. I love the way I was just kind of like playing around these tough sections and getting away with it. So it was a fun time to be in the zone, and just, I had a very humble attitude, but I was very much like, watch this, like trying to show the world what was possible, but I wasn't brash about it. I was just like, oh yeah, watch this, and it was cool to have that confidence of like, it's on, and you stare at everybody in the world who are the best, and you're just like, oh, I got you. And then Kitzbühel was always very daunting to me my entire career.
Yeah, well, Kitzbühel is supposed to be the most scary run, right? The most scary racetrack.
Yeah, it's kind of the most in-your-face downhill there is. It's shorter, but it's just like super intense, very flat, easy, intense, flat, easy, very intense, finish type deal. And I was just so intimidated. My first year on the World Cup Tour, I actually got a spot through the NORAMs, was told I could race the first few races, and then I'd go back to the NORAMs to learn some more. Well, I got to the World Cup in Lake Louise on the NORAMs. I'd never done well there. It's always crappy snow. It was tough for me to feel out. I got there for the World Cup. It was rock hard ice. I actually fell over one of the first training runs, still won the training run. And I was like, it's on. I love this. This is great. And then I ended up 17th, I think, 17th or 11th, or 14th, maybe, my first World Cup downhill.
Wow.
And then I went to Beaver Creek and was 22nd. And then I went to Gardena. I crashed, but I saw what I needed to do there. Like, right off the bat, I was like, this is mine. I love this hill. Then I went to Bormio. They were like, okay, well, we'll keep him rolling because he's doing well. Went to Bormio, ended up 26th or 27th. Then Wengen, I was top 30 as well. And then I went to Kitzbühel, and I was just like, I do not want to do this. This is this doesn't make sense to me. And basically, for the first probably 8 years of my career, it did not make sense to me. It was so hard for me to convince myself, see the lines, what I needed to do. And later, when they shortened the course, I later figured out how to really approach the lower sections, which is what would eat me up. I ended up fourth or fifth in 2016 there.
Wow.
But they shortened about half its natural length. And I just, at the bottom, I wasn't tired and I went for it. And I realized by going off the Hausberg, the Red Bull arch, and then that right foot fall away turn, and then you drop across the Hausberg Kante, the side hill there. When you're tired, you kind of want to go out wide and elongate the turn and take it easier. But then I realized when I had that energy, I took the inside bad boy line and I realized, wait, this is way easier. Why am I going out there? Like, the timing's harder, the forces are harder, that gets eaten up. So many more people go out that way. It's just a joke. But if you go inside, it puts you at the terrain falls away there and you lose contact with the snow. Well, if you're approaching it at 90 degrees, you drop down and you kind of have your weight on your heels and it's harder. But if you approach it at a steeper angle, it actually elongates the terrain to where you can jump, get on the backside, connect to the snow earlier, and accelerate across the side hill. I realized that year, and I was like, oh man, like I could have done line this. Is actually the easier line. It looks way more intimidating because you're staring at a red fence right in front of it. And yes, if something goes wrong, like, it's really bad.
Yeah.
But it's a higher consequence, but it's actually easier to accomplish. So anyway, I figured that out in time, and I love Kitzbühel, but I never got to actually stand on the podium there. But I have it in my head, and I've been leading to that Hausberg Kante, the Hausberg jump, the Red Bull arch, probably 4 or 5 times. And it's fun to just trade ideas with the other racers. Dominic Paris, who's kind of I think the winningest all time there. There's a section called the Alte Schneise, which is the middle of the course. You get off the first flat section, you jump onto this pitch, and it's this long straight pitch, but there's actually 3 kind of rolls in the pitch. And everybody just tucks and tries to go as fast as they can down this thing. But if you actually pump those, you're going to gain more speed. And nobody thinks of that. And I watch everybody and nobody's doing it. But I watched Dom a few years ago and he was doing it. And I went up to him, I'm like, because I crush people in that section. It's awesome. I just put time on them there. And I saw Dom and I was like, I see what you do there. And he's like, yes, I learned from you, Stevie. That's like, that's like such a compliment, you know?
Absolutely. And yeah, where was your mindset at after those 4 podiums in a row? How did you envision your future at that moment?
It was just, dude, that summer was so fun.
Yeah.
It rolled into the summer of just, it's on, like, training. I was just, my gas tank was full. Everything's firing and it's on, baby. We had just this group of guys in Park City. We had this trainer, Tony Barecki. He was this Austrian special forces guy. And I love the way that he trained us in the summer. Everything was, the structure was basically all body Mondays and Thursdays. Tuesdays and Fridays were full body core sessions. And then that was all in the morning. Then the afternoons, usually on Mondays and Thursdays, were just focused on recovery. Very easy, like hour and a half, spin it out, hike it out type thing. And then in the afternoons on Tuesday and Friday were sprint sessions, something that was very anaerobic. And then Wednesdays and Saturdays were long, slow distance. So we'd just go hike or bike for 3-4 hours.
Wow.
And we had a whole clan of us. The team was all firing on all cylinders. Like, everybody was punching in there every weekend. And we were all training together, and it was just a ton of fun to push each other week in, day out, in the gym, outside of the gym, skiing. Like, we were competitive, and we were at such a high level, and I was just so energetic.
I bet.
Summer training in Chile, I was just crushing everybody. It was so fun.
It felt good. I bet.
Just laying it down. The skis we had were so fast. We were developing good stuff, and knowing, like, all right, it's on. But then, like I said, got to the first race and realized what I was using wasn't working.
Messed with your boots.
World Cup. Yeah, why'd I mess with it? But I got back to the old stuff, started firing again. So it was it's just a cool place to be, and to set goals after a winter, realizing, all right, these are my strengths. I'm a big believer in maximizing my strengths. Never compromise my strengths to hopefully boost another area. Like my strengths are my strengths, and that's what's got me to that level. I need to maintain or maximize those strengths before I'm like really pushing the other levels higher.
And what was your unique strength on the world tour and the US ski team? Like what set you apart?
It's kind of funny, but my endurance is my strength. And I've had trainers come in and they're like, your endurance is plenty high. Your numbers are plenty high. You don't need to do as much endurance. Let's focus on power or explosivity and really try and develop that during the summer. But those were my dark years. I really did not excel because I wasn't maintaining my strengths, and I was trying to push for too much in other sections, and I compromised my recovery and my endurance. Like endurance creates recovery. We're on the mountain for 6-7 hours in the morning. Our runs are only 1 minute to 2 minutes long training, and we do whatever 6 of them. So our lactic threshold spikes. You got to flush that out to get the next run going. Well, that's what all that endurance work trains is to help flush that out and get you ready for the next run. They also said I'm too flexible, so I wouldn't they didn't want me to stretch as much. And when I wasn't stretching, stuff was breaking. Stuff hurt. I was so painful. Like my body was just in pain. But once I kept stretching, figured out that routine, maximized my endurance, and then worked on the other stuff, that's when things excelled. I really like Tony's work because we do these full body circuits on the Monday and Thursdays and the Tuesdays and Fridays. The cores, we do the full body circuits, but from the circuit, we would then move, after we fatigued our body, we'd move into some coordinative work. So trying to function through these coordinative obstacle courses or whatever under fatigue, which is what, if you can train how to function under fatigue and excel at that, that's what's going to set you apart when you get to that last quarter of the course, when everybody's starting to back off or everybody's feeling tired. No, if you can focus under fatigue and perform, you're going to just start pulling away because 90% of the field is going to start throttling back. Or like hop on a slack line and challenge yourself on a slack line while you're fully spent. That was the type of training he was really focused on, and I love that, and I thought that brought a lot out in me. That was kind of what I learned, was really maximizing my strengths, and my strengths were endurance and flexibility. Which sounds so dumb, but it like for such a powerful sport. But
but there's got to be something that sets you apart, right? And I agree with that. You know, as I've learned more over the years about athletic performance, you know, I even had one of my supervisors when I first started guiding on Mount Rainier. He basically asked me, he's like, "So listen, if you have a killer 3-point jump shot, but your crossover isn't very good, what should you work on? Which of those two should you work on more?" And I was like, well, you know, that seems like the obvious answer is work on my crossover because it's less good. He's like, no, work on your jump shot because that's your strength. That's your power. That's what sets you apart. If you can make that even stronger, people won't be able to keep up. And, you know, I think that happens a lot. Speaking of keeping up and all this, tell us about this weird thing you told me about in Alaska this year. So Steven came skiing with us in Alaska this year. It was awesome. And he was helping some people out with his sort of medical genre. And I forget what you called it, but I thought it was really interesting and I wanted to learn more.
It's advanced muscle integration technique. Basically, the more popular version is called MAT, muscle activation technique, but it doesn't hold. It's very rudimentary. AMITmethod.com is where you can find it.
Thank you.
You can isolate every single muscle in the body. So the VMO in your quad isn't just a VMO. There's actually 4 divisions to that VMO. So when you're squatting down and the pain doesn't occur.
And tell us what VMO is.
Vastus medialis, oblique.
Got it. Okay. So the quadriceps,
it's the inside,
essentially,
it's the
four different
quad
muscles.
muscle. It's the big kind of bulbous muscle on the medial side of your quad, like
Got
over
it.
your knee, the inside zone. Say you're doing a squat and you're bending down and you have like pain from here to here, but like down here is fine and the very top is fine. Well, you can figure out that division from here to here is actually out, and you can turn that on. Basically, you have to test these muscles specifically, figure out which muscle is inhibiting other muscles from functioning. It's applied kinesiology is basically what it is, but you have these weird hand signals that you do to determine, is that the muscle that is kind of like the keystone that's holding things back. And once you figure out what the muscle is, then you stimulate the origin insertion of the muscle with neurovascular and neurolymphatic points. You look at the visceral organ reflex points. Every muscle is related to organs in your body. And then there's acupuncture points, the nerve roots in your spine. So there's a chiropractic side to it. There's a massage side to it. And you have to, it's all trigger points or via your hands. There's no injections, no needles, no anything like that. It's just boom, 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 boom. And you're basically reconnecting the circuit breaker to remind your body that this exists. And the muscles are the shock absorber. The muscles are the pump. They'll get rid of the swelling. They'll take the load off of the ligaments and connective tissue in your body. And if you can get all those muscles functioning, you are a solid unit. I never had any injuries where something just ruptured mid-turn. It was always I smashed into something or just like
blunt force trauma,
had some massive crash, So that was, I think, because I was always balanced. And the way I actually worked my training schedule at the height of my career was I would work out Monday, Tuesday, do the recovery Wednesday, go see my muscle guru Wednesday afternoon, get balanced again for the second push Thursday, Friday, Saturday, rest Sunday, go back in, see him Wednesday, just making sure I was building me as a unit from a solid foundation and had all the muscles functioning. So as I worked out, I was building all those muscles together and not trying to play catch up come September when you're like, oh man, this hurts, I gotta figure it out. It's like, no. Let's start from a clean slate, a solid foundation, and build from there.
Because I know that you credit that with part of your longevity and part of your success in ski racing.
Part of my longevity for sure. That I think that took me to new heights, new levels. I discovered it in 2004 when I broke my leg. After that Europe Cup crash, I had a rod put in, rod taken out, too much pain in my knee. I passed the back to snow protocol from the ski team, but I was just fudging it. I was compensating, twisting, got away with it, but I was in so much pain when I skied. And I'd heard about this guy. His name's Craig Bueller. And I finally went to see him, and it was Tora Bright, who's Olympic snowboard gold medalist, half pipe.
Yeah, I know her.
She's the one that finally sent me over. She's like, go see this guy. I went there, and I couldn't do a single leg squat to save my life. And I walked out of there, single leg squat, full range motion, pain free.
In
like,
one
I
session.
am sold. Whatever I need to do with this guy. Yeah, I think it's like an hour or something like that. And,
well, I need to go.
Yeah, he's pretty incredible, and he's had a lot of people train underneath him. It's cool because he's mid to late 70s. This old man should not overpower me, but it's very specific how you twist your body to get it in the right range of motion to test that specific division of the muscle. And he's like pushing me with one finger, this old man, and I'm like, how can I not resist this guy? And then he'll activate it, go through that again, you're rock solid. And the cool thing about what he says is, now go push it, go out and strain yourself and see if it breaks. Whereas a lot of therapists are like, all right, now rest 2 to 3 days. And you're like, of course I'll feel good after 2 to 3 days of rest,
Yeah.
So he says, go and push it. And if it does break down, we actually tend to dive deeper, and you look at those organs that are associated with the muscles and you say, all right, this is related to the pancreas. Let's look at other muscles that are related to the pancreas, test those. All right, those are shut down too. What's going on with your pancreas? Are you drinking? What do you like drinking? You know, and you're like, I like Diet Coke. It's like, well, there's aspartame in Diet Coke. That's like your body does not know what to do with that. You're overloading it, stressing the organ, which is shutting down those muscles that are associated with it. You got to cut that from your diet. So it's a very holistic view on how to live healthy, and I attribute a lot of that longevity to him. But he was the head chiropractor for the Utah Jazz when they were making their runs.
That's big time.
97, 98, like John Stockton, Karl Malone, they accredit their longevity, their Hall of Fame speeches.
Well, if it wasn't for Michael Jordan, they'd have some championships.
Man, coming back. We're coming back, baby.
Yeah, that's right.
And then Denver Broncos. Bill Romanowski, like
Beast.
when the Broncos won their Super Bowls in the 90s as well, he was part of that team. So he's touched some pretty incredible people. Lindsey Vonn, Tor Bright, Sean White, winter sport people, Shannon Barkey. I don't know, all kinds of people roll through that door. It's pretty wild.
I'm going.
Let's do it, man.
I need it, man. I'm getting old. Well,
No,
I appreciate that. Thank you. That's cool. It's very.
I'll get you 20 years. We'll rewind 20 years.
Oh man, I could use that right now. Trust me. I feel old as hell right now. At the end of this big season. Well, cool. Well, thank you for that. That's very mind opening. So I need to learn more about that. So I appreciate that. And what was the website one more time?
AMITmethod.com.
Sweet. Thank you so much.
And that could show you hopefully some practitioners in your area.
Sweet. Thank you. And so let's jump into the Olympics because I'm always so curious about this. So you went in 2006, 2010, and 2014. And the scene, the experience of being at the Olympics. So let's just start. What was your favorite Olympics of those three? Because what's the mass? Was it Torino, Vancouver, and Sochi? Is that right?
Sochi, yes.
Okay.
Torino to me, I mean,
Italy.
everything had that. No, Vancouver was cool because it was basically like a home games. I had so many wild people there. It was tons of fun, but I exceeded my expectations. I was in a lot of pain, not on top of my game at that time. I think I ended up 17th or something. It was fine, but the energy there, and I outperformed where I was currently kind of skiing. Torino, I was new to the scene. That was my first year full time on the World Cup Speed Tour. I was just this kid. I think I'd just been fourth in Garmisch.
Damn.
Went to the Olympics. All the training at that time, you got to vie for your position in the training run. So if you were 30th in the training run, you got first. You got to start first in the race, and if you were first, you got to start 30th. So they reversed the order. So everybody kind of cut speed. If they skied really well, they cut speed at the end to kind of boost their start number. Well, the final training run, skied really well, cut speed, still was third on the run. I was like, whoa. It's on. And the downhill was February 12th, which is my birthday. And I was just like, stars are aligning. This is like destiny. And I just thought about all the wrong things, like didn't stay focused on the task at hand. I just had, my technician calls it brain cinema. I just had this thing going through my head of what would I do here? How would I deal with this? Like, what happens when I win? You know, it's not like, no, we need to like actually win before we think about these things. I thought about the total wrong things. I ended up messing up the race run. I forgot what I ended up place wise. So, but I got sung happy birthday in the finish area. So that's special.
That's not so bad. And what about the rest of the scene? Like the village and the social part of it.
Torino was the worst. Like,
Torino was the worst. Torino, I think Italy would be the best.
No village. We didn't even stay in the village. We stayed in these houses outside, and I think the village was like in Torino. Like we were stuck up in Sestiere, so it was like totally removed from the energy and the scene, which was a bummer.
That's too bad.
Vancouver, very cool. Like super cool. Yeah. We did stay off site. They typically do find housing offsite for us because to get in and out of the village, it's a pain. You got to go through security. It basically eats up an extra hour of your day.
Oh, okay.
So we were just offsite in a different zone, made our own food, didn't have to deal with any of that stuff. Like the food in Torino was so bad.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was really
Italy,
bad.
man. You'd think it'd be the best.
Well, it was whoever like sponsored the Olympics was the food that you received.
Yeah, McDonald's.
It's like junk. And so anyway, we controlled our environment better in Vancouver.
Okay.
Which was great in Whistler, but just Whistler at night was so much fun.
Oh,
like
yeah.
The concerts, the music that was there.
Must have been nuts.
Gotta stay for a couple days and just kind of experience that. Sochi, though, I really enjoyed it. My mom came, a teammate's mom came, and we all stayed, rented this place down on the Black Sea for I think 3 or 4 days after the event. And we just went to all the events. We roamed around, just took in the whole environment, and that was a ton of fun.
That's really cool.
Got to go just ski and experience the area. Got to talk to locals. Everybody was so nice. What they built there in Sochi on the Black Sea, which is now like F1 races, the World Cup soccer, the World Cup was there. They have these massive stadiums. There's like 4 massive stadiums just built in that area. And obviously they had the Olympics.
Wow.
It was just wild to see the magnitude of what they created. And this high-speed train that zipped up from there into is it the Caucasus Mountains? Whatever, the massive mountains that are there.
That's right.
Like, you're just amazed that you're like, what? I was just in the ocean and now I'm just underneath these huge peaks.
Sounds
just super special and different. And I actually went to Korea, even though I blew my knee. Actually got to experience it and I loved it. The culture there, didn't know anything about it and just wanted to embrace it during that training event where I was second or third there. Just took it all in and roamed all around. Got to go into Seoul and the like how populous that area was just mind blowing.
Yes.
But then during the Olympics, I went there and reported for ESPN, and that was fun to do some reporting at night, but then go to events during the day. I actually had my new daughter at the time. She was with us. It was like total chaos. Did some work for Spider. So I was part of the Olympics, never got to compete, but it was fun to be there and go to the Austrian house, like go to these houses. Every nation or brand creates these houses as advertisements for people that are at the Olympics can go experience, and they give you food and want you to go to their area. Austria, it's all about tourism. So they
tourism
basically
boards.
built a Tyrolean lodge there that you could just go in and they're just like shuttling you all this food. Same with Italy. Italy's home was just like the food was tutto bene. And they just put you up and just and love you. So it's a lot of fun. The Olympics are special. It brings a lot of people together. Unfortunately, I never really performed that well there, and just stuff didn't align at the time. But it's something that'll stay with me forever for sure.
I'm so glad. Yeah, and I've been to Seoul as well. I played basketball a bunch when I was in Seoul. I'm actually pretty good at basketball in Korea, which is red. But
in Korea,
there's a big asterisk there. So yeah, on that note, do the Olympics bring a pressure that you don't feel other places?
Definitely, but that can be totally self-created, and it was self-created because I never the first one I was young. The other two I wasn't prepared well enough. I wasn't in the right space to actually compete for the top.
Mentally or both, physically?
Mentally, physically, just
all of it.
Equipment wise, the stuff wasn't aligned. And so and I didn't really have a great understanding of it. So you're obviously shooting for the top and you create that conviction and anything can happen those days. But if you're hoping on something can happen, anything can happen, you're not prepared. You're not ready. Like if you have that attitude, that's like the worst. You're like, well, we'll see what happens here. It's like, no, when I'm winning, I know what's going to happen. I'm convinced of everything. I know I'm capable. I know what's required. I know how to approach the day. Like that's why I was bummed. And that is my regret. Like I wish I could have another go at it when I was at that in that space, but that's what makes it special.
And
Like, stuff has to align at that time, and you have to have a good understanding of what you're trying to do and how do you get to that point. So it took a long time to figure that out, and once I figured that out, I just ran into a string of injuries, and it was a big bummer. But yeah,
I don't think us as outside the World Cup humans appreciate or understand how much has to come together to get on a World Cup or Olympic podium. It's insane. And on that note, what would mean more to you, an Olympic medal or a World Cup podium?
it depends on what World Cup.
There you go.
Like,
which ones have the most value to you?
World Cup. Kitzbühel. I'd love to win Kitzbühel.
Yeah.
I think Kitzbühel or Wengen would take precedence over the Olympics.
Where's Wengen? Is that also Austria?
Switzerland.
And so
it's
Kitzbühel
under the Eiger.
Kitzbühel is kind of, as a non ski racer person, Kitzbühel is the most famous one to me. And is Darren Ralves the only American to have won that?
I think so. Still,
I think that's right. Yeah, I think that's right, because he told us the story. That's how he got the Red Bull helmet too. He said they talked to Red Bull and said, "Hey," they said, "Well, we're not going to have you as an athlete, but if you win Kitzbühel, you can have it," which they just thought wasn't going to happen. Yeah. Okay. So Kitzbühel and Wengen are the big ones for you.
Yeah. Which Darren has won both of. I've never, like, on paper, I should have won Wengen.
Mm-hmm.
It's the longest. It's the longest course on tour right now. Zermatt should, if it happens, will be the longest. That's going to approach almost 3 minutes.
Oh, that new one, that's 2 countries, right?
Yeah. But I think Wengen and Kitzbühel, there's 50,000 plus people at those races. Ooh. Kitzbühel, you're basically skiing into this stadium, the sea of people. It's so cool. I've had the opportunity to run number 1 there, and was one of the favorites. So people were just fired up, and it was just a scene crossing the finish line into that arena, and just people going bananas.
Insane, man.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if you want to talk about this or not, but you kind of got snubbed in a way for the 2022 Olympics. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, it basically comes down to Title IX and giving women more opportunity, or the equal opportunity to men.
Mm-hmm.
The Olympics prior, when I injured myself, my spot, all prior Olympics,
mm-hmm.
the governing bodies are given allocated spots. So mm-hmm. say we had 22 spots for Alpine skiing.
Mm-hmm.
It actually shifted to 11 spots for men and 11 spots for women instead of this total grouping. And when I hurt myself in 2018, my spot actually went to Alice Merriweather, a woman.
Okay.
There were complaints that the spots always get shifted over to the men, then we were taking away from the women and their opportunities. So the games in China, there were women that went to that games that had never scored a World Cup point, that had hardly even raced on the World Cup, because we had so many extra spots for women versus men. And we had plenty of men that had scored World Cup points that could push for a decent position and performance at those games. And it wasn't just us, it was all the nations suffered from it, but mainly it was Italy, Norway, and us, and Canada, I think, suffered because they took our spots away. And I was the first alternate, but never got to go. My wife was chief of staff at the time with the US ski team, so she actually went, and I feel like if I went, like, it would have been really hard on our kids. And I'd already been to the Olympics. Like, it wasn't a big deal to me, but Mattia Casse, who had several podiums the next season, he got snubbed, and he was skiing very, very well from Italy. And he'd never been to the Olympics before either. So it's unfortunate. And what if he gets hurt? What if he never goes to the games?
Right.
I mean, it shouldn't be a pity story, but basically there's that. And then there are these races that occur, or these people, the smaller nations that try and go to the Olympics. There's a group of 9 people that on the last day scored at these races that basically allowed them to go to the games, and a lot of them were never even close to scoring. And basically they're bunk races that are held, that people ski slow at, that have good rankings, that allow them to be tight enough to give them good enough rankings to qualify for the games. And it was looking like I was going to go to the games, as was Matthias and all the random people. Like, we were told, you're going to go, we just need to wait for this block of people to clear, and then they'll allocate the spots to us. And this race occurred, and then we challenged it and tried to say that was get it thrown out so we could go, and they didn't do that, and they didn't allocate more spots. And so it's fine.
It's more complicated than I thought. Damn,
dude, it's a total mess. But one of the people that actually took the spots, his name is Benji Alexander, and he was racing for Jamaica. And
oh yeah,
the funny thing is he was training out of Jackson with the Masters team there. And he asked me, how do I get to the Olympics? What's the best route? And he's like, I want to do it in Super G. And I'm like, you're not going to make it in Super G or slalom. Like, you need to aim for GS. That's the easiest general turning event. Like, your skills are definitely not up to par. Like, I never thought he'd even make the Olympics, and he did, and ended up knocking me out of the Olympics, basically.
Oh no, shouldn't have given me the advice. Oh, it's so funny.
Yeah.
Wow. The world is like
and I actually
that.
thought that when I was telling him, I'm like, what if this guy knocks me out of the Olympics? That would
No
be
way.
funny.
Oh man.
And he ended up doing it.
Wow, impressive. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I'm definitely curious what's next. What's next for you in your journey?
What's fun this winter is a lot of my partners still want to work with me.
Right.
Yeah, from Fisher to Sundance to Spider. I want to really show people the tangible side of skiing, and it doesn't have to be this watch this type of attitude. I'm so radical. Look at this trick I did. Look at this line I skied. It's just more the normal things that occur, and it'll mostly be on social media. But it's like how to get your kids on the slopes, like little tricks to make them not break down. Like, I designed this. I actually have never had like a signature piece, and I helped design this onesie for kids with Spider.
Oh, cool.
A handle on the back, and you can grab the handle to pick them up off the snow when they're
kids
just, like,
need a handle.
whining, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's an integrated handle. It's called the Stevie.
I love it.
And so that comes out this year, and just showcasing like real life skiing. And hopefully that'll be attractive to people. We're proposing kind of some episodes and shows, maybe like little 5-minute segments on YouTube of what it's like to be a normal skier, but there'll be comedic twist to it, and it should be a lot of fun. So yeah.
Well, that's great, man. I'll be looking forward to that as well. I like that a lot. I mean, I think of that myself. I feel like I ski at a little bit more normal level, and I think people can relate to that, and they like that, instead of the stuff that's, so insane. It's, it's not even, it's like a different sport.
Yeah. And part of it's going to be backcountry. I want to hit certain peaks up and just show the ease of access to areas. It's not that hard, but it gets you away, gets you reconnected to the mountains, away from the rat race, and really, really help people kind of clean their plate and reboot for the next session with the city.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
that's what you good. Call it.
No, I like that, man. Inclusion in the mountains. Let's get more people up here doing this. Steven, that's all I got for you today, man. Do you have any other thoughts you'd like to add here at the end of the show?
Oh, Miles. Well, let's ski this winter. It'd be a lot of fun when you're in Utah, or maybe we can rendezvous.
I'm in Park City a bunch, man. So let's connect there and do some skiing, and definitely drag me over to Sundance. I would love that.
I'd love that. And you can teach me the ways of the backcountry. Yeah,
let's do it, man. We'll make a deal.
All right.
All right.
Thanks, Miles.
Hey, so good to talk to you today. Thank you so much for being here. Have a great rest of your day, man.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much for listening to the SnowBrains podcast. If you liked this podcast, please share with your friends and family, and please subscribe. To find out more about SnowBrains, please visit us at snowbrains.com. You can also find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at SnowBrains.
This episode of the SnowBrains podcast was edited by Jared White and Ben Hout. Music by Chad Crouch. I'm your host, producer, and creator, Miles Clark.